Charlie Kirk is a racist and an idiot, and one of the largest voices on the right. His fame is a relatively new thing. He went from being known only by online political junkies like myself in the late 2010s.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Shank. I live as a capitalist, okay? I live what I believe. No. What do? I get charity every single year. Hold on. What's my salary? Less than his.
Charlie, take a seat.
Come on, Shank, let's go.
Charlie,
what are you doing?
Take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho?
To being known by basically every single teenager in America with a TikTok account.
A fetus is in utero.
What does fetus mean in Latin?
What the I'm sorry, is this
It means little human being.
He even does the thing that Ben Shapiro does where he debates random college students.
So you're comparing abortion to the Holocaust?
Absolutely I am. In fact, it's worse. It's worse.
He went to my college last year where I debated him and won. How do I know this? I didn't get clipped. Now, over the past few weeks, Charlie's been going on racist tirades online over Muslims in the United States. Actually, Islamophobia isn't racism. It is though. People who look vaguely Arab or brown get profiled as Muslims all the time. Sikhs get hate crimed because people think that they're Muslims because they're brown, wear turbans, and have beards. Charlie literally did this himself on Twitter when he mistook the mayor of Calgary for being Muslim when she was Sikh because she was brown. So yeah, there is absolutely a racial component. But even if he wasn't racist and just Islamophobic, Islamophobia is still bigotry. So how is Charlie Kirk Islamophobic? That's what we'll be finding out on today's episode of Progressive Primers. First, take a look at his commentary about New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani, who is a self-described democratic socialist, surprised even progressives when he not only won the New York mayoral Democratic primary, but won it by 12 points. Mamdani is also incredibly based. So naturally, Charlie Kirk would have a problem with him. Although the way he criticized him was interesting. He tweeted, "New York City is likely to elect a Muslim socialist as mayor. This is quickly becoming one of the biggest threats to our country. Pay attention." Interesting that Charlie thought it was important to highlight that he was Muslim. He could have just called him a socialist and his audience would have already had a reason to dislike him. Can you imagine if Kirk called someone a black socialist? How about a Jewish socialist? He would have been canceled even by the right. After Mamdani won the primary, Charlie tweeted this. 24 years ago, a group of Muslims killed 2,753 people on 9/11. Now a Muslim socialist is on pace to run New York City. Now, obviously, this is an absurdly Islamophobic thing to say. Zohran Mamdani is not a terrorist or even remotely has the same worldview as Al-Qaeda, and this tweet got a lot of pushback. Jessica Tarlov, the liberal panelist of Fox News' The Five, tweeted this in response. "Charlie, this is so gross and Islamophobic. Take it down." Charlie responded, "Debate me on the merits. Don't just throw out petty thought-terminating cliches. This isn't 2015. That doesn't work anymore. What Muslim country do you prefer to live in, Jessica? What Western city or country has improved as the Muslim population has increased? America's largest city was attacked by radical Islam 24 years ago, and now a similar form of that pernicious force is poised to capture City Hall. Be courageous enough as a liberal to call it out. I know deep down you are worried about what he will do. You were just too afraid to say it." Jessica responded, "I'm not afraid to say that I don't think Mamdani's vision for the city is a good one, and I think a lot of his policies are crazy. New York City is the home of capitalism, not socialism. I want more police funding, not to defund. BDS is repellent. We can't freeze rent, make everything free, but none of that has to do with him being Muslim." Charlie responded, "So the guy that's about to be NYC's next mayor wants to boycott and sanction Israel. First ever major candidate to say so, but that has totally nothing at all to do with him being Muslim? You know it does. You were just terrified about the social cost of saying it publicly. It's okay, I'll do it for you." Jessica then finished with, "Have you seen all the white Christian and Jewish hipsters from Brooklyn that support BDS? It's not that he's Muslim. It's that he's wrong." Okay, so a lot to unpack there. First off, Jessica, we can't freeze the rent? What do you mean we can't freeze the rent? New York City has froze the rent a bunch of times within the last 10 years. They literally have a board that is dedicated to freezing the rent. It's not about can we do it, it's about if we should do it. Also, make everything free? Yeah, like free at the point of service, not literally make everything free. Zohran has literally gone line by line and explained how he's going to pay for everything, but whatever. It seems that Charlie thinks that Zoran's ideology is in, quote, similar form to Al-Qaeda, which is absurd. Zoran Mamdani is one of the most progressive politicians in the country. No person who says that they're for queer liberation is a radical Islamic fundamentalist. You're just being racist. And again, there is a racial component. If Zoran was a white Muslim, the attacks wouldn't be nearly as vile. Charlie also implies that Muslim immigration is ruining America's cities? How? He provides no evidence, so I did some digging. A few weeks ago, he tweeted out this. This is New York. We are being conquered and they are rubbing it in our face. Islam is steadily enveloping the West. Then there's a video of a TikTok that shows Shia Muslims celebrating Ashura in New York. The TikTok adds intimidating music to scare the viewer. But then the music stops playing. Wow. So scary. Look at all those brown people, Muslims, dressed in black, casually walking the streets of New York and holding up a banner. So scary. Look at that guy. Look, that guy's drinking. He's drinking something. What is he drinking? That could be a threat. This is definitely enveloping the West. It's hilarious to think that this is scary. It looks no different from Chinese New Yorkers celebrating Chinese New Year in public, or Irish New Yorkers celebrating St. Patrick's Day, or Jewish New Yorkers celebrating Yom Kippur. To say that this one is somehow uniquely scary above all others is Islamophobia. And Muslim immigration isn't ruining America's cities. Strict zoning policies and NIMBYism are ruining America's cities by artificially restricting the housing supply and making them unaffordable places to live. New York City, like America in general, is a melting pot that has had waves of immigrants come from all different parts of the world, and it's made America better. But for some reason, Charlie thinks Islam and Muslims are uniquely incompatible with the West. Why is this? What are Charlie Kirk's problems with Islam?
For anyone that has eyes to see and ears to hear and actually reads the Hadith and reads parts of the Quran, you know that conquest is an Islamic value. Islam has conquest values. They seek to take over land and territory.
Yes, because Christian countries definitely do not have a history of conquest. Absolutely no Christian majority society has ever done conquest in the name of God. But Hadi, these aren't recent examples. Islam wants to conquer the West in the modern day. So true. So let's look at the modern day. Since World War II, Afghanistan has invaded 0 countries. Algeria has invaded 0 countries. Bangladesh has invaded 0 countries. Egypt, 2. Iran, 0. Iraq, 3. Jordan, 1. Lebanon, 1. Malaysia, 0. Morocco, 0. Oman, 0. Pakistan, 1. Saudi Arabia, 1. Somalia, 1. Syria, 3. Tunisia, 0. Turkey, 1. Yemen, 1. Meanwhile, the peaceful West with the United States has only invaded 8 countries. And if that number seems low, keep in mind that I'm using a very strict definition of the word invasion. This list doesn't even include Korea, Vietnam, Syria, or the Dominican Republic, which, while technically not invasions, were offensive conflicts with American boots on the ground. But no, it's definitely Islam that's rapidly taking over the West.
Europe is now a conquered continent. It is not what it used to be. It's a husk of its former self, which is increasingly Mohammedan.
So true. Look at this map of Iranian military bases in Europe. Oh, wait, sorry. No, this is a map of U.S. military bases in the Middle East. But Hadi, these wars weren't caused by religion. Really? During the Cold War, American propaganda played up the narrative that the struggle between capitalism and communism was also a struggle between the Christian West and the atheist Eastern Bloc. Or how about when General William Boykin gave a speech recounting his confrontation with the Muslim warlord in Somalia in the 90s and saying that he won because, quote, my God was bigger? Or how about when George Bush referred to the war on terror as a crusade?
This crusade, this war on terrorism, is going to take a while.
Or how about when George Bush said that he invaded Iraq because God told him to?
In the Islamic texts, they spend so much time about people who do not share their values. There are like direct calls in Islam of what to do for those that don't believe, and it's a very pernicious preoccupation.
This is true. The Quran does call for violence against non-believers. Like, look at Surah Al-Anfal, which says, "Remember, O Prophet, when your Lord revealed to the angels, I am with you, so make the believers stand firm. I will cast horror into the hearts of disbelievers, so strike their necks and strike their fingertips." Surah Al-Bakara, verse 191, says this about non-believers: "Kill them wherever you come upon them, and drive them out of the places from which they have driven you out, for persecution is far worse than killing. And do not fight them at the sacred mosque unless they attack you there. If they do so, then fight them. That is the reward of the disbelievers." And of course, most infamously, Surah Al-Janin, verse 37, which states, "If a man or woman living among you in one of the towns Allah gives you is found doing evil in the eyes of Allah in violation of his covenant, and contrary to my command has worshipped other gods, bowing to them or to the sun or to the moons or the stars in the sky, and this has been brought to your attention, then you must investigate it thoroughly. If it is true, and it has been proved that this detestable thing has been done in Arabia, take that man or woman who has done this evil deed to your city gate and stone that person to death." Horrible stuff. Except that last quote was actually from Deuteronomy, chapter 17, verses 2 to 5. Instead of Allah, it says the Lord, and instead of Arabia, it says Israel. Then, of course, there's 2 Chronicles chapters 15, verse 12, which states, "And they entered into the covenant to seek the Lord, the God of their fathers, with all their heart and with all their soul, but that whoever would not seek the Lord, the God of Israel, should be put to death, whether young or old, man or woman." It seems that both the Bible and the Quran have called for violence against and the murder of non-believers. But Charlie downplays calls for violence in the Bible.
Christianity spends a fair amount of time on it, but nowhere near Islam, though.
But plays up calls for violence in the Quran. In May, while in England, Charlie Kirk went on the conservative GB News and talked about the decline of Christianity in the West. And he said some crazy things.
Can a civilization continue when it cuts off what gave it life? Probably not. And that's what modernity is flirting with right now. And so then you get all these counterfeit religions. You get environmentalism. Why do you guys think you guys are doing this insane net neutral carbon stuff by 2050?
Net zero, yeah.
So you get rid of Christianity and then you get a substitute form of earth worship.
Yes, because caring about the habitability of the planet we all live on is earth worship. I care about having a house, Charlie, but that doesn't mean I'm praying to Bob the Builder.
You get rid of Christianity, and then you get a substitute form of anti-racism.
Okay, anti-racism is obviously not a religion. I don't know why Charlie would say such an idiotic thing.
You get rid of Christianity, and then, even more dangerous, you go from secularism then to Islam. Because then you're like, well, we have to believe in something, and then you bring in a completely different ideology that's at odds with Western values.
Charlie, people watching this now would say it's just Islamists who are the issue. Islam as a religion is peaceful by nature, so on and so on. What's your response to that?
I know a lot of great individual Muslims. My primary doctor in America is actually a Muslim, and he's amazing. That's not the point. You can walk the street and meet a great Muslim in London. The question is macro Islam compatible with Western values? Macro. Of course it's not. There are three major reasons why. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. Those three things are antithetical to the West.
Let's break these down one by one.
Islam does not believe in freedom of speech.
Well, while the Quran doesn't have a blanket verse either promoting or condemning free speech, neither does the Bible. Sure, the Quran says that lying is a sin and gossiping is a sin, but these are both sins in the Bible as well. So are you saying that the Bible is against Western values? Sure, many Muslim countries don't have freedom of speech, but that's not because of religion. It's because they have authoritarian governments that punish dissenters. That's politics, not religion.
Islam does not believe in freedom of religion.
Well, this point plays into one of Charlie Kirk's arguments as to why Palestinians shouldn't have a state. That Islam is a barbaric religion that can't tolerate others. In fact, a lot of his Islamic arguments seem to center around one thing: Israel.
Can you show me an example of Jews living peacefully under Islamic rule?
I can. the Fatimid Caliphate, which was generally religiously tolerant of Christians and Jews. There's also Al-Andalus, Muslim-ruled Spain, which was very tolerant of Jews. In fact, Al-Andalus became a hub for Jewish intellectuals, and many historians say that a golden age of Jewish culture in Spain took place under Muslim rule. The Ottoman Empire was also very tolerant of Jews during most of its history, in many cases way more tolerant than Europe. There's a lot more examples. In many Muslim societies throughout history, Jews were considered dhimmis, non-believers who were given special protection and tolerance in exchange for paying a tax. Jews have lived peacefully in many Muslim nations for thousands of years. It was really only until Muslim countries declined and faced hardships when Jews started to get scapegoated. But blaming minorities for social ills is very common in every society. Charlie Kirk is doing it right now. Anti-Semitism isn't just a Muslim problem. It's a human problem. Now, of course, the Quran doesn't actually believe in a true freedom of religion, but neither does any religion. Pretty much every major religion thinks that it's the correct religion, and that believing in others is heresy. So far, all of Charlie Kirk's arguments as to why Islam is incompatible to the West also apply to Christianity or any other religion. But finally, Charlie Kirk says Islam is against the separation of church and state.
And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state.
Okay, but Charlie, you don't believe in separation of church and state either. Charlie Kirk used to straight up say that he doesn't believe in the separation between church and state.
Again, there is no separation of church and state. It's a fabrication. It's a fiction. It's not in the Constitution. It's made up by secular humanists. It's derived from a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Convention. Of course, we should have church and state mixed together. Our founding fathers believed in that. We can go through the details of that. They established literally a church in Congress. Anyway, separate issue.
Okay, so first of all, while the Constitution doesn't explicitly say there shall be a wall of separation between church and state, it basically all but does, because it does say Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Congress can't establish religion? Seems like separation of church and state to me. And also, just because Congress may have a church inside of it where individual politicians can go and worship, doesn't mean that the U.S. government and U.S. law is religious. Politicians can have their own religion, but government can still be secular. His point doesn't prove anything. Again, Charlie Kirk used to explicitly say separation of church and state isn't a real thing, but now he's more weaselly about it. He says stuff like, well, it depends on what you mean by separation of church and state. Do you believe that there should be a separation of morality and state? No. And where do we get morality from? The Bible.
Okay. More importantly, let's forget church and state. Okay. Can we both agree there's no separation between morality and state?
I agree.
Okay.
It's just lawmaking.
That's cool. That's where I really live in. What I'm saying, though, is the church should influence that morality. That's what I mean by that. Because at some point, people are going to have to make a decision of what is good and what is bad, what is permissible and not permissible. And I think the church or Christianity should inform those decisions.
Okay, but then the Quran is also a moral guide. Christians and Jews have the Ten Commandments. Muslims have Surah Al-Isra, which, among other things, bans murder, adultery, arrogance, tells people to honor their parents, the poor, and the stranger. Most religions have moral codes, Charlie. Why are you pretending that Christianity is the only one, or the only one that says good things, like murder is bad? So to recap, Charlie Kirk doesn't like Islam and Muslims. Why? Because they have a culture of conquest, even though Christian countries have had the largest empires in the world. Because they kill non-believers, even though the vast majority of Muslims and Christians are peaceful people, and even though the Bible also says to kill non-believers. Because they're against the freedom of speech. Not really. The Quran doesn't say much about the subject at all. Islam isn't against the freedom of speech. Dictators and authoritarians are against the freedom of speech. It's because they're against the freedom of religion, even though plenty of Muslim societies throughout history have tolerated non-Muslims. And finally, because they don't believe in separation of mosque and state, even though Charlie Kirk himself doesn't believe that church and state should be separate. And that's a common trend that you'll see a lot from the far right. Every accusation about what they think Islam is actually a confession of what they truly believe. Let's do a comparison of the views of Charlie Kirk and radical Islam. Intolerance of LGBTQ people.
We must react politically. We must ban trans-affirming care the entire country. Donald Trump needs to run on this issue.
Check. Supports rigid patriarchy.
Hi, Charlie. I'm Addie, and I'm 14. I'm a freshman in high school, and I was wondering, as someone who has a different opinion on college, what would you say the pros and cons are? Because I'm interested in political journalism.
Let me also speak to some of the young ladies here in high school where your top, who's here where your top priority is get married and have kids? Raise your hand. Okay. Interestingly, I think there is an argument to bring back the MRS degree. And no, seriously. And just be clear, that's why you're going to college, right? Don't lie to yourself, I'm studying sociology. No, you're not. We know why you're here. And that's okay, actually. And that's a really good reason to go to college, actually. If you think about it, I say college is a scam, but if you're going to find your life partner, that's actually a really good reason to go to college.
Check. Justifies war crimes.
How do you differentiate between an innocent civilian and a Hamas militant?
Yes, this is part of the tragedy of war, that they did not invite, but Hamas did.
Check. Thinks that religion should be deeply involved in government.
Of course, we should have church and state mixed together.
Check. Thinks the influence of the opposing religion is a fundamental threat to society.
Large, dedicated Islamic areas are a threat to America.
Check. And finally, intolerance of non-believers. Well, that one's obvious. Check. Does this mean that Charlie Kirk is a radical Islamic terrorist who wants to bring Sharia law to the United States? No. He's just a far-right conservative. And a racist. Hey everyone. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. Thanks to all my new subscribers who came here from the Soy Pill. Your support got us over the 500 subscribers milestone, and I'm so happy that we finally achieved that. Once again, thank you so much to the Soy Pill for picking my video to shout out in his segment, Oops, All Ladders. It's a massive honor. I've been a huge fan ever since I discovered his channel, and it's honestly just a huge compliment to think that my videos are worthy of a shout out on his much larger channel. Thanks to him, my trans rights video is low-key kind of blowing up. Let's keep this momentum going. If you like this video, share it with other people. Let's try to get to 1,000 subs. I also wanted to say how touched I am by all the trans people who came out in the comments saying how much my video meant to them. It's moving, and I just wanted to say that you guys are always welcome in this community. Until then, I'll see you in a few weeks for my next video. Not sure what it's going to be about yet, but I have a few ideas.